Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart.
Let's go, Brandon. If you are an American and you're above the age of 18, you probably already know what that means. And I don't know I do know why I'm doing this video. I'm doing this video because I keep seeing it everywhere. And sadly enough, I keep seeing it on like Facebook, Christian posts and stuff like that. And it's been bothering me. So nobody really sent me a question on this. It's just that there's not enough information for a sermon, and so it's going to be part of your questions answered in that series. So, Pastor Jim Taylor from Haven Baptist Church in sunny Kunsan in South Korea, and this would be a good time, by the way, to go on down below the video and subscribe to our channel. Turn on the turn on the like button and all of that stuff. So every time I do a video, or anytime our church sends out a video, then you can get a copy of that video. And we do lots of stuff. We have sermons, we have Sunday school lessons, we have this series, sometimes we post church music, so there's lots of stuff out there. Send me a question. I get a lot of questions from several people, but it would be helpful if I got more questions from other people other than the same 3 or 4 people. Not that I'm telling those people to stop sending. Please don't stop sending. You give me lots of ideas. So but, send me your questions. I'll be more than happy to put them on my list, and I'll get around to them at some point. So apparently, I guess back in October of this year, there was a NASCAR race, and the guy won, whoever it was. I don't know. I didn't see the race. I'm not much into that. But some guy wins, and then the next thing you know, they've got an NBC reporter. I think it was NBC. Let's see. There's my notes. Yeah, NBC reporter who does an interview with this NASCAR winner, and in the background behind them was a crowd of people who were apparently all anti-President Biden, and they were chanting, F President Biden. That's what they were shouting. Very vulgar chant. And the NBC reporter, I don't know if they're half deaf, or if they were just trying to make it into something that it really wasn't, or maybe they didn't know that everybody could actually hear everything clearly. And so the NBC reporter says, oh, look, they're chanting, let's go Brandon. And so that became an issue. I mean, the internet just kind of blew up, and there's all these memes and, everything that's going on with this phrase, let's go Brandon, which actually stood for F Joe Biden, okay? The Democrats, of course, they said, well, that's disrespectful, and we ought not be doing that, and, it was okay to be disrespectful when, a Republican was president, but now it's a Democrat, so you can't be disrespectful. But that's a bit hypocritical, but they are right. It is definitely disrespectful. But the moment that they said that, it just made everything worse. So now what do we have? Now we have memes and videos, this one included. There's even a store in Massachusetts that sells, let's go Brandon merchandise. There's a Republican, his name was Bill Posey of Florida, and he ended a session in October, on October 21st. This is like 19 days after, the whole let's go Brandon thing became popular. And he ended a House floor speech by pumping his fist in the air and saying, let's go Brandon. The very next day, Governor Greg Abbott from Texas tweeted out the same thing, let's go Brandon. Southwest Airlines, they're doing an investigation right now into a pilot who supposedly he used it over the loudspeaker. People are in the airplane and he's doing his little pilot speech, we're going to be flying at 35,000 feet, and by the way, let's go Brandon, and he did something like that, and so they're getting investigated for that. There's a Christian rapper. I'm not into Christian rap. I'm not promoting this guy. I tell you what, I won't even give you his name, okay? But there's a Christian rapper who did a song called Let's Go Brandon, and he posted it on YouTube, and YouTube said, no, we're not going to allow that. So they kicked it off. So what happens, he puts it on the Apple Music store, and Apple Music video goes to #1, all right? Christian rap star, okay? The thing I'm getting to here is that there are a lot of Christians that are getting caught up into this. And I have to tell you, it's alarming and it's shameful. I guess we could talk about what "Let's Go Brandon" means, which is certainly not something that Christians ought to be saying to start off with. You say, "But I'm not really saying it. I'm not saying the words." We could talk about how disrespectful it is toward the same leadership that God says we ought to respect and pray for. 1 Peter 2:17 says this. It says, honor all men. Let's Go Brandon doesn't do that. Love the brotherhood. Fear God. Honor the king. And it's certainly not doing that. Look, I'm not a fan of President Biden. I didn't vote for him. I prayed that he would not get elected. He's a staunch liberal. He's been, he's bought into this whole woke thing that's going on. He's pro-abortion, and quite frankly, I think that he may be just getting too old to be president. And I'm not trying to be mean here, but his mental capacities do appear, and I'm not saying, I'm not trying to be mean or anything like that. It happens to everybody when they get old, okay? But I think that his mental capacities are actually beginning to go down. And frankly, I just don't think that he should be president, but he is. And so, what do we do now as Christians? We are to pray for him. None of that I just said is any excuse for Christians to curse. And you're saying it's not cursing. There's no let's and go and Bryden. None of those words, or Brandon, none of those words are curse words. Yeah, it is. You know what it means, and you know what it means in your heart. So yeah, it is a curse word. Ephesians 4:29 says, "Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth." How are you gonna justify that? You really can't justify that. Words are defined by their context, and you know what those words mean. You know what the context is, and so does everybody else. You're not fooling anybody, pretending to be some kind of spiritual person, because you're not going to say the real bad words. Look, we can start with the basics. If you aren't praying for the president, then you really, I'm really hard pressed to think that you've got any right to complain about him when you aren't even praying for him. The Bible tells us to pray for our leadership. And then, secondly, if you don't like what he's doing, and I don't like what he's doing, I'm sure you don't either, speak out against the policies. Let your voice be heard, but don't attack the person, okay? That's how things ought to be. We ought to handle everything that way, and especially things in a public forum, and especially in politics. Ephesians chapter 5, verses 3 and 4 says this. It says, "But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becometh saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks." So that's foolish jesting at the very least, all right? So if you're guilty of, on your Facebook thing, putting up a meme that says, "Let's go Brandon," or whatever, I really haven't seen that the last few days. So maybe Facebook decided to censor that too. And I'm against censoring. But the bottom line is, if you've done it, take it down. It's not helping your testimony one whit. It's making you look, like you're not really much of a Christian after all. If you're upset about the state of the nation, I am, then what do? Well, vote those guys out of office and get some decent guys in office. Write to your congressman, complain about it, do an editorial in the newspaper, make a YouTube video. Maybe they'll let it actually stay on. Who knows? But whatever you do, don't let this kind of corrupt communication come out of your mouth. Don't join forces with the lost crowd. Even if they are a conservative lost crowd, they're still lost. They're not guided by the Spirit of God, and you're joining forces with them. And I heard of a church, Cornerstone. It was called Cornerstone something or another church. And so there were some videos that hit the internet of the church, the people inside the church being led from the platform, shouting, "Let's go Brandon." Well, it came out, and it was all over the news. Like, look at these Christians, these bad Christians shouting, "Let's go Brandon." And then it came out later that actually it wasn't the church people at all. They had rented the church building out to a political group. I forgot the name of the group. But anyway, they were the ones doing it. But the Christians were the ones that got blamed. We were the ones that were plastered all over the news saying, look, these guys are supposed to be so holy, and they're saying, let's go Brandon. You're not respecting your leadership. You need to pray for it. But the biggest thing I'm concerned about is, why do Christians seem to think that just because those individual words aren't curse words in and of themselves, that it makes it okay to say it? It's not okay. In your heart, it's not okay. What you're doing is you're cursing in your heart. And by the way, that's what God's looking at. So with that, I'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Until next week, may you know the peace of God because you know the God of peace, and may you be found walking in the reality of God's presence. God bless you and have a great week.